Hi, and welcome to this training on how to organize and facilitate a Makesense holdup online. This video is for anybody, whether that is a Makesense volunteer, you're a Makesense gangster, ambassador, you're a micro intern, or maybe even a Makesense full-timer who's interested in preparing and organizing a holdup that's upcoming. So this video is going to help you with everything that has to do with preparing beforehand, stuff you need to do before the actual workshop. Will help you to know the flow and the content of the actual workshop as you're doing it, and then with a couple of tips and reminders as you're wrapping up the brainstorming workshop and stuff after the event itself. So this video is for you guys to use. I hope that it definitely excites you. Allow me to introduce myself really quickly. My name is Pepper, and I'm the Asia Head of Community for Makesense here in the region. I am also based here in the Philippines, in Asia, where the Makesense office is. My email is patricia@makesense.org. If you ever want to reach out for any questions whatsoever, I'm best reached through my email, whether you have questions on the flow, on the program, or you want some tips, or you want some further resources, I'd be very happy to help out. Or if you just want to connect over at Facebook, I'd also be happy to be friends with you guys. And my name on Facebook is just Pepper Makesense. So very simply, Pepper Makesense, just go on and add me. I'd be very happy to be connected to you guys. All right, so to get on with the training, let's start with what is a holdup actually. I'm sure you already have some sort of idea on what a holdup is, but the shortest answer I can give you is essentially it's a brainstorming workshop. Holdups usually last for an hour or an hour and a half, or maybe even 2 hours and 2 hours and a half. Usually people have so much fun exchanging ideas that it usually lasts 2 hours. But this whole methodology is a collective and creative methodology that uses design thinking so that you can solve the challenge of an entrepreneur. Now, the holdup is actually our oldest methodology in Makesense. It is something that we've been doing ever since Makesense has started from 2011. So for now 10 years, we've been doing it in so many places around the world. As you can see, holdups have been organized by various people all across the world in more than 120 cities, and with definitely more than 250,000 participants. So that's like minimum 120 social entrepreneurs and NGOs that we've helped out with the challenges that they're facing, which is a really good thing. And we're here so that you guys can organize yours. So hopefully at the end of this, you guys are motivated to organize another one, and we'll have even more than 250,000 participants in our track record. Now, some things that you need to know when you're organizing a holdup, this is not a must, but this is just an overview of what do you need to keep in mind, what are the things that you are going to be honing even further because of organizing and facilitating a holdup. Well, obviously for skills, number one is really about facilitation. A brainstorming workshop is really about the person who facilitates it, the people who are leading the whole exchange of discussions, exchange of ideas, and all of that. But also sociability and problem solving, obviously, because a lot of different people are going to be attending your holdup. So there's a level of sociability that you're going to be able to practice, but also problem solving, because at the end of the day, you're not just there to make friends and network, but really to try and solve a problem together. Other things include adaptability, project management, obviously, and also communication. And usually in a holdup, you have about 15 to 20 people attending besides yourself or your co-organizer as well. All right. What is the impact of a holdup? Why do we even do holdups? Why have we been doing holdups for 10 years? And what value does it bring to the people who are involved? So this is a quick overview of what values does it involve? What value can you get or receive from holding a holdup or from organizing or being part of it? For the social entrepreneur, the person whose challenge you're going to try to solve for that day or that session, that person is going to be able to receive new ideas or confirm ideas that they already had. They will be able to define even more clearly their project and understand and prioritize the stakes bring visibility and connect with future partners, because they're there and they're going to meet 15 to 20 new people who are interested in helping them out, and these same people might even help them out even further or even join their initiative after the holdup that you organize. For the facilitator or the organizer, which is you guys, then obviously, like I mentioned earlier, you're going to get a lot of training on skills such as organization, communication, facilitation, but at the same time, you also get the opportunity to connect with other really interested individuals in the ecosystem of social impact, because they're going to be attending the holdup as well. And of course, lastly, hopefully you're just satisfied to help a project with a purpose. For the participants, so the people who are going to be part of the brainstorming workshop, then these are usually people who already are interested in the topic or the social enterprise itself, whether that's about urban farming, whether that's about education or sustainable tourism, whatever it is, it might be something they're already advocating for or interested in. And so being able to be part of this workshop really helps them discover even more information about these ecosystems, but also to connect with fellow people who are also interested in the same topics as they are. And at the same time, if they aren't already familiar with tools that involve design thinking and collaboration, then this is the moment that they're going to learn even more about it. So there's a lot of stuff that you can get from a holdup. It really is impactful and is the reason why we continue doing it. So now there's 3 steps to organizing a holdup. You have preparation, facilitation, and follow-up. Preparation obviously is everything that has to do with before the actual day of the workshop, things that occur from 2 weeks to the day before. Facilitation is the things on the day itself, so on the morning of and during the actual brainstorming workshop, and follow-up is everything that has to do afterwards. So let's start with preparation. What do you need to prepare? And with holdups, there's a bit of a preparation that you really need to do before you actually do the workshop. It's not just putting together the event itself, but actually a couple other things as well that are crucial to making sure your event is a success. The first thing you have to do, the first step that's crucial to a holdup, is to be able to frame the challenge. Remember, for a holdup, you're using creativity and collaboration to be able to solve a problem, to be able to solve the challenge. And so before you even get to solving it, you need to go back and say, is the challenge even well framed? And what is the challenge even? And so that's the first thing you have to do. You have to frame it. You have to know what the challenge is so that when you present it to other people, then they can clearly understand what the problem is, and they have a good flow with trying to solve it. And so the first thing to do when you're framing the challenge is to interview the entrepreneur for an hour. The social entrepreneur, the founder, the officer. It doesn't always have to be the actual founder or CEO. It could just be an officer. It could be a lead or someone who knows a lot about the actual social enterprise or NGO. You need to interview this person, and you need to ask this person what the project is about. And you need to tell them, you have to tell me everything that has to do with what it is about, what are you guys doing, what are your current projects, and then tell me about the challenges that you are facing in your social enterprise or your NGO. And at this point, they're going to be telling you a couple of things. They're going to be like, oh, this is one challenge we're facing. We don't have enough customers or users in our platform. Or another challenge we're facing is we don't know how to do PR. We don't know how to do marketing. None of us does graphics. Or another challenge that we're facing is da-da-da-da-da, and these other things. Let them tell you the story of what their NGO or their enterprise is all about, and let them tell you what the problems they think they have are. Now, the goal here is for you to just listen to them, but while listening is to actively think of what could be that one simple question we can frame the challenge in with objectives and constraints. What is that one challenge that we can solve for this holdup? So I'm sure they're going to tell you a couple of things that we're trying to solve this, we're problematic with this, blah, blah, blah. But you need to think, all right, what is the challenge that we want to solve today? Because we can't solve all of them. Remember that. You can't solve all of the problems in one holdup. You just need to choose one. So with this, while the social entrepreneur or the founder, the officer is telling you all about their initiative, then you already need to be thinking about what is the exact source of their troubles? What does this all boil down to? And this is what where critical thinking comes in, where you as an organizer have to think about how do you synthesize all of these different things that the person is telling you about. So if they're saying like, yeah, we don't have enough users, I think it's because our graphics aren't beautiful, or the user experience in our website isn't good. And now you have to think about, all right, they think they have so many problems, but what does it all boil down to? Maybe it all boils down to the fact that their very website is very hard to navigate around. And so the challenge could be that, how do we make sure that their website has really good user experience, or how can we better their user experience, right? It doesn't have to do with the graphics, doesn't have to do with the colors. Maybe it's really just the website. So you see what I mean? You have to go down and identify the exact source of their troubles. And this can be done during the 1-hour interview with the person. Now, during that 1-hour interview, and it really doesn't have to be more than an hour, but during that 1-hour interview, a couple other things you need to remember is to first ask about the mission and the different activities that they're doing, so you can really have a clear picture of what their project is about. Keep asking them using the 5 whys technique. So if you don't know about this, it's basically just keep saying why every time they tell you what challenge they're facing is. So if they say that, we don't have enough people coming to our website, keep saying, why is that? And they're like, because our website is hard to get to. Well, why is that? Because the colors are so off-putting. Well, why is that? And they're like, because we don't have a graphic artist. And why is that? So you just keep going why, and why. And then after 5 whys, you'll get to the bottom of things. Also, ask them what has been done, what worked and what didn't, and why was that, just so you're sure that when you're doing the hold up, that you're not repeating something that they've already done before, and that you yourself are aware of, they already tried that, it didn't work, and so we need to think of something else. Ask them also what their ideal situation is. Where do they want to get to? What is the objective they want to reach? This is because it's important for you to put in their objectives that they have for themselves in the social enterprise, so that your very participants are also aware of where this enterprise would like to get to. At the same time, you also need to put there what the constraints they have are, so that your participants are also aware of things they need to keep in mind when they're thinking of solutions. So constraints could involve resources such as budget, financial or monetary values, like we don't have a budget for a good website, or it could be constraints on time. We only have 1 month to put together a website. Or it could be constraints on the manpower that they have. I'm just one person doing this, So you need to put there the objectives and the constraints, and also ask them what kind of output they would like to have at the end of the holdup. Do they want to have help with having an action plan, a user scenario, content of a communication campaign? What is it that they want to have? Because that's what the participants are going to work on at the end of the workshop itself. And I'll tell you a little bit more about that. So interview the social enterprise, the social entrepreneur, or whoever the person is beforehand. Do that for an hour. Make sure you ask all of these important questions, especially asking them what has been done, what didn't work before, and asking them what the constraints and their objectives are. And after this, you can then start framing it into one challenge. So some tips with framing the challenge after you've gained all of this knowledge, all of this information that you needed, is to, number 1, focus on just one challenge. It's really better to do 2 holdups than having one with a broad or unclear problem. So if they really have, you really got to the bottom things and you noticed that, they really have 2 major issues here, choose just one. You can't have a holdup with 2 challenges, just choose one out of them. Next thing is that objectives and constraints should be linked. They can't put in their constraints that they have that has nothing to do with the challenge they're facing. So again, like my example a while ago, if their challenge is about user experience on their website, a constraint could be, do they have the budget? Do they have the time to put it together? Do they have the manpower? You don't want them to put a constraint on, one of my constraints is that I don't feel like working anymore. That is a valid constraint, but it's not something that's related to the challenge at all. Now, be clear and simple when you're framing the challenge. Make sure that the challenge starts with the words, how might we, how can we, how will we, or any of these phrases. Basically, choose these starting points for your phrase, and also have a clear time frame as well. This is an example that I have. For example, the challenge that you came up with after interviewing the person for 1 hour is, how can we ensure that our digital platform would be utilized well by our users? Now, the challenge is very clear. It's one sentence. It starts with how can we, and it has it's very clear. It's just one problem we're trying to solve. Objectives that need to be reached with this challenge is that the platform has to be easy to use, should enable the users to develop skills faster. The platform should encourage people to collaborate more. Very clear. Objectives all linked to the challenge. Now, constraints, on the other hand, for example, is they only have 2 months to launch the platform, and not all of their users are digital friendly, and their communication resources are limited. Again, everything is related. All the constraints and the objectives are related to the challenge at hand, and it just makes sense for your participants to know these different knowledge or different information that they're going to use as they're trying to brainstorm on how we can solve this challenge. And there are a lot of ways to frame one problem, which is something I want to show you guys. You know, when it comes to a website, for example, or here, the digital platform, not necessarily a website, but a digital platform, there are other ways you can frame it. Not just with, you know, being utilized well, but how can you, for example, push for a better user experience? That's a different problem altogether than utilizing it well. Another one is, what name or title should you give this project? What are some user-friendly interfaces to use for this platform? Again, it's a different problem to solve. How can we launch a successful campaign to launch this platform? Now, this is launching the platform itself. It's not building it anymore. It's launching the platform. So as you can see, the same problem can have many ways on how you can put it into perspective and to present it to your participants. And it really is a matter of you guys, you and the person you're interviewing, agreeing on what the perspective you're going to use is. At the end of the day, the social entrepreneur or the person, the officer, needs to also agree with the way that you framed the challenge. You don't have to do this. You don't have to finalize the one sentence challenge on the 1 hour interview that you have with the person. You can do it afterwards, but always make sure to have them check it so that they're not surprised on the day itself and say, wait, what? That's not what that's not our problem at all. You don't want that to happen. You don't want to have to clamor to change the challenge on the day itself of the workshop. So that's the first step. Once you've interviewed the person, once you've interviewed the social entrepreneur, then you're going to start organizing the session, right? You already have your one sentence challenge. You already have your objectives. You have your constraints. Now you start organizing the session, and this can be done 3 to 2 weeks or even 1 week before the actual hold up. And this is very basic. You need to prepare the date, choose a date and time. Of course, one where the person that you're trying to help is also available. Choose a platform. So it can be done via Zoom or by Google Hangouts. And prepare a registration form so you know who's coming, and you can also control the number of people that you allow to register on your holdup. You don't want more than 20 people, especially if you're just one person facilitating. If you have a co-facilitator with you, then I would say 25 is also a good number for 2 people to facilitate. You need to communicate on your event online, which means posting it everywhere that is relevant for you. Of course, the Facebook includes that. Makesense will be happy to have your event in our platform in Facebook, in our Instagram, and in our website as well. If you want to put it over at Meetup, that's also pretty good. Up to you. But for us, if you reach out to me or any of the officers in Makesense and say that you want to have an event, then we're definitely going to have it in Facebook. If you are a current ambassador or a volunteer, or if you're a current micro intern, you don't have to worry about this because you have your coordinators with you and they will be the one to post it. You just have to let them know once you have the resources, meaning you have the actual posters already. And then you have to prepare your digital tools. Now, for holdups that are done online, there are 3 things that you have to keep in mind. You need to have the presentation, the basic presentation, meaning the Google slides that you have to prepare, including the introduction, the pictures, and all that. And this presentation is already prepared for. There is a backbone of it, a draft or template of it in Makesense. You don't have to worry. It's just a matter of getting a copy of this template. Next thing you have to prepare is Jamboard. If you're not familiar with Jamboard, this is the time to do so because it really is the best way to easily do an online workshop, especially a brainstorming workshop. Usually, if you're doing offline holdups, you have Post-its and pens on hand. But since we're doing it online, we're going to replicate that on an online setting. And the best way to do so and the most accessible way to do so is really Google Jamboard. So if you haven't seen it before, Google Jamboard is just basically an online platform where you have Post-its that people can use. And just like any other Google sheet or Google Doc, anybody can access it once they have the link. Now, you also need to have a canvas in Google Slides. And this one I will show you guys later on, especially on why this is important. But the canvas is depending on the output that the social entrepreneur wants to have. So if the output is an action plan, then your canvas is going to be an action plan. If your canvas is about a user experience or a storyboard, then it's going to be that too. And I'll show you this later on. So this is the time where you organize the session, everything that has to do beforehand. The third step before you actually have the day of the workshop itself is to prepare the brainstorming. Now, you can't just give them the challenge, the constraints, and the objectives and say, all right, that's it. Up to you. Tell me what you want to do. What is the solution in your head? Of course, you need to lead them into some answers. And the way you're going to do this is by preparing questions. What you have to do is to prepare a list of 10 questions that allows your attendees to explore all the many challenges and the paths of the solutions during the interview that you did with the social entrepreneur. So what does this mean? You have the challenge, the one-sentence challenge that you have. You need to prepare 10 questions related to that challenge that you will ask your participants one by one, and that will lead them to possible different types of solutions. And I'll give you some examples of these questions later on. But for now, you need to remember some of these things, these tips on preparing those 10 brainstorming questions that you're going to use throughout the workshop. First is it really has to focus on the challenge. Obviously, these questions need to lead to answers, need to lead to more ideas, and they have to always be they always have to have the challenge at the heart of things. The next thing is to arrange them from the easiest to the most difficult questions. And the reason we want to do this is so that they get a little bit of a warm up before they get to the more complicated questions, which they have to really think more deeply about. The third thing here, and the fourth thing as well, is to allow them to share their own experience. And the way you're going to do that is by making questions that allow them to project themselves or to put themselves in the shoes of the target users or the persona of the social enterprise itself. So it has to be things that they can imagine that they can do, and things that they can project themselves into as well. A couple other things is that you need to test these questions yourselves before you present it to them on the day of the workshop itself to know that it is possible to answer, and that there are a lot of, there's several answers that you can give for this question. Otherwise, you may have to rephrase things. And lastly, if you ever think of new questions on the day itself while you're facilitating the actual holdup, or if you want to tweak some things in terms of wording or perspective, that's totally okay. Sometimes it really depends on the dynamic and also the type of people, the personalities, and the backgrounds of the people attending your holdup. So if some things come up, some things need to be removed, that's also possible on the day itself. So for example, again, going back to my example a while ago, the challenge of how can we ensure that our digital platform would be utilized well by our users, right? Some possible questions for this is, first, how do we make this digital platform fun for the users? Again, easy question, start it off. How do we make it fun? Put themselves in the shoes of the persona. What would be fun for them? Secondly, what functionalities would make them use the platform every week? This is a good question, because then you're thinking about what are the things that we can include in this actual platform. Third, what type of users would use this digital platform? Now, this question is helping the social entrepreneur to understand who are the types of people that you really want to attract, who are the types of people that you need to cater to and that you need to personalize the experience of. Why would someone choose not to use this platform is another good question. It's like turning it upside down. Instead of asking them who would use it and why they would use it, you could ask them why not, right? And if these things come up, then how can we make sure that we address them and help convince the persona to use it? How could we valorize users from the feedback they would be giving? Is going even a step further. People can utilize it well already. Now, those people who do, how do we make sure that they give us feedback and that we reward them for these feedback? You can also put in there some really cool and fun questions, such as, if we had $1 million, what kind of features would you put in this platform? If we had unlimited resources, which partners would you reach out to and create a collaboration with? If you had $1 million pesos, which celebrities would you ask to promote this platform, etc.? So these types of fun questions are also possible. You can insert them in the end because they also help with sort of getting people to get their imagination even going further. So these are the types of questions you need to prepare beforehand. Again, everything that has to do with preparation is preparing the interview, framing the question, knowing the objectives and constraints, and then ultimately to have the 10 brainstorming questions prepared beforehand. So that's everything to do with 2 weeks to a week and a day before the actual hold up. Now, on the day of the hold up itself, this is what the session looks like. It usually runs, like I mentioned earlier, about 1.5 to 2 hours. Maybe 2 hours and a half maximum. And this is all it takes. This is the flow of the actual brainstorming workshop. So you start off with installation for 15 minutes. Installation is very quick. It just simply means preparing your slides, preparing the platform, meaning the Zoom or the Google Hangout, making sure everybody has the link, all good. And then you start off with introduction. Introduction goes for 40 minutes. I'll tell you more about that in a bit. Then you go to inspiration for just 10 minutes. I'll tell you what to inspire them about later on. Brainstorming is the bulk, the heart of this workshop. The hold up is just because of, essentially the core of it is the brainstorming part of things. But you don't end at brainstorming. You continue on with a convergence phase, which is synthesizing all of these ideas. You don't want people to just walk away and say, all right, those are my ideas. Well, good luck with them. You want them to help you synthesize them in one document, in one canvas. And this is what the canvas that you're going to put in the Google Slides are for. And then lastly, you want them to share their solutions so that they have the opportunity to explain their ideas and to explain what they think should be or could be a solution for the challenge. So let's go on this really quickly. Installation, again, like I said, is preparing the platform, making sure that the Zoom call works, that you're in the Zoom call at least 15 minutes, maybe even 30 minutes before, whether that's in Zoom or in Google Hangouts. The next thing is the presentation. Like I said, it's a general presentation of introducing Makesense, introducing yourself, introducing the challenge at hand, the social enterprise. The Jamboard. Now, this is what the Jamboard looks like. It looks exactly as it would in an offline holdup where you have Post-its, people can contribute. There are different colors, sizes. You can move it around and all that. Jamboard is here. And of course, the canvas and the Google Slides. Just make sure all of these links are on hand already. Now, introduction is really where you begin the workshop, of course. And now, who do you introduce? You give a brief introduction of Makesense, what Makesense is all about, what is the organization, especially since you're representing it. And of course, introduce yourself, whether you're an ambassador, employee, an intern, a micro intern, a volunteer. And then allow the social entrepreneur to present their initiative as well as the one-sentence challenge that you're facing for the day. You also give them a bit of time, at least 5 to 10 minutes, for the participants to have a Q&A session with the social entrepreneur so that if they already have questions off the bat, then they can already answer it. If these questions can be answered later on through the hold-up, you can just tell them, all right, hold on to your question, and we probably will discuss it later on. But any other questions that they have for the social entrepreneur, they can address it at this point. At this point as well, you want to introduce them to the ideal rules, which is very crucial to a hold-up. I'll show you guys what the ideal rules look like, but this one you really need to emphasize. And of course, an icebreaker to start off. You can do different types of icebreakers, whether, I think I have some ideas here. You can do a meet and greet. You can do in one word, just say like, in one word, how was your weekend? Or in one word, how do you feel? Or fun questions like, all right, everybody, we're going to do a round of names and also answer the question, if you could be stuck in one city in the world for the rest of the year, where would that be? Or you could also do active movement like, oh, everybody, as we start, I want you to stand up, say your name, and then do a stretch, things like this. So do an icebreaker before you even begin to hold up. Make sure everybody is able to speak before the brainstorming starts. Now, this is the other thing I was telling you about that you really have to emphasize, which is the ideal rules. And ideal rules is very simple. It really spells out what it means. The first one being ideas only. And what we want them to know is that throughout the brainstorming workshop, you want them to express their ideas in just a few words and not in a story. The reason for this is if you have 15 to 20 people in one call, 2 hours is only going to give them a couple of minutes each to explain all of their ideas. You don't have the whole time to listen to one person. You want to make sure you're able to listen to as many people, if not all, really, throughout the whole workshop. So express things and ideas in just words, not paragraphs, or essays. Second is D, develop on others' ideas. The point of the workshop is really to collaborate with each other and not to work in silos. This is why we organize the workshop. This is why people are together. And so it's very important they're listening to each other so that they can inspire ideas on their own as well, and they can connect ideas as well. Equality of ideas is also very important, especially if you have people who are, a bit more professional, a bit more mentor-like, who have more information on the particular topic at hand. During holdups, everybody is equal. And so that means that there should be no self-censorship. There's no good or bad idea. Even if this person has been working on this field for 10 years, everybody is equal and everybody should express their ideas. Now, A is for achieve 100 ideas. We usually say that quality is over quantity, but actually in holdups, it's quantity over quality. We want as many ideas as possible. They don't need to be well hashed out or well explained completely. We just really need ideas, a lot of them too. And lastly, liberate yourselves. Express all ideas out loud and have fun. Super important, not only in Makesense holdups, but in any workshop with Makesense. So that's the first thing. You do an introduction of yourself, of Makesense, of the social entrepreneur, the challenge at hand. You do an icebreaker and you introduce them to the ideal rules. Now for the next 10 minutes, you want to inspire them. And what do you want to inspire them with? You want to inspire them with solutions that are happening around the world related to the challenge at hand. So take, for example, the example I gave you earlier of how can we utilize well this digital platform. I'm sure that somewhere across the Philippines, somewhere across Asia or the world, that this other company, organization, social enterprise has faced the same problem and was able to solve it. Not maybe in the exact same way, maybe not in the same field even, but they probably have experienced this in one way or form, and we can take inspiration from there. The point of this part of inspiration is to show them that it is possible to solve it, and it is something that's worthwhile and it has been done before. We don't always have to recreate. We don't have to do things from scratch. We can always build from other stuff. So inspiration is giving them an example of 2 to 3 other organizations, social enterprise that have faced the same challenge and solved it in a certain way to inspire them and say, see, they were able to solve it and we can too. At this point, you can also show them, you can also ask them if they have any examples in mind that are existing projects that solve the same challenge. So maybe examples that they've seen, that they've done as well on their own and all of that. And there's a really nice quote here, I think. No, not a quote, but it just means that, just says that the challenge might have been resolved totally or partially elsewhere in the world or in another sector, even like I mentioned earlier. So that's what inspiration is for. Now let's move on to the bulk of the actual workshop, the brainstorming part. The brainstorming part is where the 10 questions come up with. And here, what you just have to do is for every single one of the guide questions, remember the 10 ones you prepared, without waiting for your turn, meaning the participants, without waiting for their turn, whenever they have an idea per question, They need to say it out loud so that everybody can hear it and write it on a post-it. One post-it is equal to one idea. And at this point, they will stick it on the Jamboard for everyone to see. Logistically, what does that look like? Well, before you even start the brainstorming session, you're going to tell them that you're going to send them a link to the Google Jamboard, and everybody has to get on this link. And with anything that has to do with open Google documents, you can always see how many people are in the document already. So just wait for everybody to get on in there. You can continue to share your screen so that people can actually still see it. And when everybody is in the Jamboard, your Jamboard is now going to have 10 pages. So one Jamboard can have a lot of different pages, just like slides, and you're going to want to make 10 because you have 10 questions, right? So everybody can see it, everybody can see your screen, you have 10 pages, and you're going to start with the first page. First page has question number 1. So question number 1, you're going to give them 2 minutes to answer the question. Say the question is, how can we make this platform fun for everybody? And now you're going to wait for everybody to answer. So what you want people to do, the goal here is for them to say their answer out loud and then to type their answer in a post-it and post it on the page as well. Page number 1, because it's question number 1. Now, people are going to be shy from the onset. Nobody's going to be talking. So in order to encourage them to share, you yourself might want to give one answer first and say, I can go first. Maybe we can make it fun by making sure that the graphics are very colorful. And then you're going to type it and then paste it in the post-it and say, who else has an idea? And you want to slowly build them up so that they're sharing their ideas, saying it out loud, but also typing it in. And what you want is after 2 minutes to have a post-it filled with so many ideas. If they want to extend for a couple more seconds, like 30 seconds more, this is possible. That's all right. And usually they're going to do this in the latter part of the questions. So you're going to do that over and over again for 10 times because you have 10 questions. Per question has about 2 minutes allotted to it. And you want everybody to be sharing their ideas and to build on each other's ideas as well. Remind them always of the ideal rules that they need to keep on listening. They shouldn't just be giving out ideas but not validating other people's ideas or not listening to others as well. Why do we do it this way? Because we need to give a maximum number of ideas to each of the questions asked, even if they're crazy or even if they seem irrelevant. Remember, one of the ideal rules is to have no judgment for anybody. And a really good quote here is, the best way to have a good idea is to have a lot of ideas. So this is the bulk of the actual brainstorming workshop, using Google Jamboard and sharing your screen so everybody can see all of these ideas being put in the board. And you're going to want to do this for 40 minutes. So having everybody share, collaborate, and exchange. Some tips as you're doing the brainstorming part is to first repeat the rules of the holdup, the rules meaning the ideal rules. Secondly, to repeat the answers of the different people to help to have no judgment. You have people who are a little bit shy, a little bit introverted, a little bit laid back, and they might not get heard. So you want to repeat their answers and say, oh, John, what did you say? What was your idea? Or Mary, what did you mention? I think your idea was connected to, I don't know, John's, to Larry's, things like this. Third is, don't hesitate as a facilitator to be dynamic and to keep repeating things and to have a lot of energy. That's super duper important. Now, for each question, you want to achieve at least 10 ideas in order to switch to the next one. If you've reached 2 minutes or 2 minutes and a half and still no 10 ideas, stay in that question and as much as possible achieve at least 10 ideas. After you do 40 minutes of brainstorming, which again is the bulk of a hold-up workshop, you're now going to continue with solution conceptualization, aka convergence. Now that they have brainstormed different solutions and ideas individually and tried to connect them to others, it's now time to synthesize with each other. And they're going to do this by group. Now, usually with holdups, the output is a storyboard, and this is what a storyboard looks like. If you're not familiar with a storyboard, essentially a storyboard is just a document that outlines the persona of your social enterprise. Of course, this is going to be different. In this example, the name is Mary. Mary is a student. Mary's 22 years old, and the storyboard is basically outlining how Mary, your persona, is going to find out about your social enterprise, how she's going to get convinced to be part of or to buy or to use your service or product, how she's going to experience using the product or service, and how she's ultimately going to encourage others to also use your product or service. And that is what you see here from steps 1 to 7 within a span of a certain amount of time. So this is Mary finding out about the solution. This is her researching more about it, her actually buying it, etc., etc., etc. So this is the whole experience of Mary. And this is easily done via Google Slides, so they can just use shapes, they can even use pictures, they can use clip arts, text boxes, they can replicate this online using Google Slides. And this is the reason why I said you need to prepare a different document of Google Slides so that they can create the output that you're going to do by group at the end of the holdup. So you want them to go back to the constraints and the objectives that the social enterprise or social entrepreneur has for this holdup, and then to look at the different ideas that they put in the Jamboard. So how does it work? You need to form groups of 3 to 5 people. And per group, what you want them to do is you want them to go back to the challenge, remember what the challenge is, remember their objectives and constraints, and then as a group to look through the Jamboard and to choose about 5 of their favorite post-its, meaning 5 of their favorite ideas, and take these 5 ideas and create a storyboard out of it. Now, logistically, how this is going to look like is you want people to be grouped in breakout rooms through Zoom. This is why the best platform to use for a holdup right now is actually Zoom, because of the function of breakout rooms. It is possible to do Google Hangouts. What you have to do is you have to create a lot of different links. So if you have 5 groups, you need to create 5 links so that each of them can have a link and each of them will be part of that call. But if you can do it in Zoom, it would be better because then you could keep everybody in one call. They would just be in different rooms. If you're not familiar with breakout rooms, there are some videos out there explaining how breakout rooms work, but it's very, very simple and you can just do it very easily in that platform. So put them into different groups. Tell them as a group, you need to go back to the challenge, objectives, and constraints, and then you need to look at your ideas from the Jamboard, everybody's ideas. Choose the 5 that are best for you and create a storyboard from it. So this is what breakout rooms looks like actually in Zoom. You just basically assign the number of participants that you have, either automatically or manually. I would recommend doing it manually, and then you just click create breakout rooms. So this is the number of rooms you want to create. It will automatically and equally divide the people that you have in the call. So if you have, for example, 10 participants, and you want to put them into 2 rooms, it will automatically and equally divide 5 in each group already. And this is what it looks like. So again, I said choose 5, but they can also choose 1 idea. So it's about 1 to 5 ideas that they can choose from the Jamboard that they'd like to develop on, depending on what connects with each other as well. And they're going to do that per group in the Google Slide for the next 30 minutes. So it could be looking something like this. Each group then would have one slide or 1 Google Slide per group. So this is what it looks like. They could do that like this. They could also put pictures. Those are much better. If they have pictures and clip arts, that would be much better. So it's more visual. Otherwise, if the social entrepreneur says that actually I don't need a storyboard, what I need is a communication planning document or maybe a planning document, then that's also possible. You can also create something else. Either you use a template that exists somewhere in the internet that you found, you can use a template that the social entrepreneur prefers, or you can even create one yourself. There are some that are already existing with Makesense, such as this, a communication planning document for people who want to create for social enterprises that need communication planning and all of that. But otherwise, the storyboard works either way for any of these. At the end of it, remember, once they've already done this Google slide, this storyboard for 30 minutes, 30 to 40 minutes, you're going to tell everybody that, all right, we're going to go back to the main room, close the breakout rooms, or if they're in Google Hangouts, go to each of the link and say, hey, everybody, we're going to go back to the main link already. And once you have everybody in the same link, you have 20 minutes for each group to present their slide. So you just have to share the screen, or they can share their screens, and then they just have to present what their solution is. And the point of this is so that the other groups can see how other people connected the dots in their own teams. At the same time, other people can also receive feedback from what they were able to put together. You can also suggest to the social entrepreneur to record the pitch of the participants. Either way, I would recommend that you actually record the whole hold-up so you can always go back to it any time. And this is the beauty of doing online hold-ups. But either way, it really is important for the social entrepreneur or founder to really record the pitch so that they remember what the solutions are. Once all the groups are presented, ask the social entrepreneur to share which ideas he or she liked the most. And of course, they get to leave with the post-its, meaning the Jamboard and the Google Slides as well. And that's basically it for the whole actual facilitation of the hold-up. See, it's very simple, but at the end of the day, very impactful 2 hours of your time. Now, I said I have a few tips or reminders for follow-ups, and it's basically just this. Don't forget to say thank you in the call itself, and even through email through the participants. They really shared 2 hours of their time to share with the solutions that they think of with the social enterprise. So don't forget to thank them. Tell the entrepreneur to also share their prototypes so that the participants can keep up to date of what's happening. And ask the attendees who want to be trained in a hold up. So the next time it could also be someone else who organizes a hold up. I want to end with this. Some keys to success in every hold up. And the first one is, before the actual hold up, you need to really prepare a good challenge, and a challenge that's well framed. Remember, I told you that 1 hour with a social entrepreneur is crucial to really be able to frame your challenge and to make sure everything flows in and ties in together. So that's super, super important. During the hold up, during the workshop, conduct the whole thing with very dynamically and with attentive facilitation. Do you remember the skills I told you earlier? Facilitation is really number one when you're doing a hold up, because it really is up to you of making sure that people feel at ease to share, making sure people are feeling creative and collaborative. And the facilitator is one of the key things in this, if not the main thing for it. Now, afterwards, follow up on the project to facilitate the implementation as well, to make sure that everything that you did and all the effort you put to that hold up really comes to fruition. And final things, be dynamic as a facilitator, keep smiling, pay attention to the ideas and the solutions that come out of it. Don't be the type of person who just lets them talk and doesn't actually attentively listen. No, you really have to truly listen so that you can connect ideas and make sure everybody is included. And don't hesitate to challenge them as well. So if they say an idea and you think that, oh, can you explain that a bit further? But what if da-da-da? And what if da-da-da? Don't hesitate, to do that as well. That is it. I end here. Bravo. Congratulations. And this is a hold up. This is an online hold up. That's how you do it, how you prepare, organize, facilitate, and follow up on one. And I really hope that after you finish this whole training video, that you yourselves are feeling ready and equipped to do your own online hold up. Now, if you want to contact me again and anything that has to do with holdups, or maybe other methodologies that make sense, or maybe even other partnerships, or you simply just want to say hi, my email is patricia@makesense.org, or you can connect with me on Facebook, which is Pepper Make Sense on Facebook. Thanks, everybody, and have a good rest of the day, evening, weekend, or week.